I was watching someone today make a video about having the greatest comeback of your life. And I started thinking about all the comebacks that I've had. If you can allow your comebacks to be your greatest inspiration or what tears you down. It's absolutely your choice. And you have these same choices in every moment in life. You have the choice to decide that you are you're a victor and you're at the cusp of something new, or you can decide that you're a victim. You can decide that the universe has your back, or that the universe is completely against you. You can decide that the difficulties in life and the struggle and the hardness of it is something it's just baked in, and it's an excuse for you not to achieve. Or you can decide that it's just to help you to level up to the next step. You can make that choice of whatever that means. And I started thinking about all the comebacks that I've made. I used to be 320 pounds. I used to be closeted, absolutely closeted. I've been to prison. I've been through so many I have been at the door of taking my own life. And so I have come through so many different things. I was looking at it's so evident in so many I would pull down my school transcripts the other day for a possible new career I'm just looking into. And it was so wild to me looking at my transcripts. I actually was suspended academically from a local university. And then in the very same subject, I got D's and F's in, made a straight 4.0 when I went back and decided to do it. From going from in sixth grade where they wanted to hold me back to recently getting my master's and absolutely excelling in that. And my professor telling me that he wanted to take my master's thesis and use it as a basis for his upcoming classes. That was wild. That's wild to me those both are true. Those both are my experience, and those are both part of my comeback. And I see it happen every day. Currently I sell cars, and it's interesting to me that as I meditate and I pray and I get more out of the necessity to sell a car, I sell cars. And even we recently purchased a home, and right at the very beginning of that, understood that we were under contract with a rental house for another like 9 months. Did not realize that. And yet through prayer and meditation, everything absolutely worked out. Had to pay one less, in fact, got out of the rental and was thinking I'd have to at least pay for December. Didn't end up having to pay for that at all, and thought there would be lots of glitches and wouldn't have enough money to get into the new house, and absolutely came into it and actually kind of have a little bit more now that we're in it than we had before, with no really reason why there should. And so it is about going with inspiration. And there were so many times when I almost backed out of the house that we were buying and kept asking, what would we end up paying? What would be our penalty? And I came to this realization that almost any decision that you make in fear is not going to be a decision that serves you at the end. So it's about stepping into your greatest joy. It's about stepping into your greatest bliss, and then having the faith and belief to keep going down that path. So many times we make decisions out of faith and grace and bliss and joy, and then second guess it the whole way. That's my pattern. And that's, because we've stepped out of grace and faith and belief and stepped into the fear. And fear can always be present. It can always be a factor. It can always be something we make a choice from. So I'm really asking myself, how can I step more into faith and grace and belief? Because every time I fully do, everything not only works out, it works out really, really well. And perhaps that's the way that life can be lived. So I want to know from you, have you lived in grace and faith and belief? How has that helped you? If you pray or meditate, has that done something for you? And it really calls to me the idea of what true prayer is. If you read the sacred text, it tells you that the proper way to pray is to ask and then to immediately give thanks, which means that you are stepping into complete faith that your prayer is instantly answered. I love how Carolyn Mace, when she talks about her relationship with the divine, she talks about how prayers are always answered immediately. And that is so true. Sometimes it's just in a language and in a way we're not expecting or not wanting, and we want to keep deaf ears to that. But I think that prayers and meditations are always answered. They're always answered immediately, and they're always answered to our greatest benefit by what we will allow. What will you allow for yourself? I'm asking myself what I will allow for me, because there are so many things that I would love to achieve and see and experience in life. And I'd love to see everybody else experience the things that they would like to have as well. I don't think that my experiencing or getting my goals takes away from you, and I don't think that yours takes away from me. I know that there's a great mindset right now, especially in America, that believes that when somebody else gets something, it means that there's less for me. And that's truly a fear and a lack mindset. And I won't live in that. And that's why most of the news and most of what's going on, I just keep myself completely distant from it, because I know that when I watch it, when I listen to it, when I hear it, it absolutely tears me down and strips me. It strips away. It makes me disempower myself. And that's a really important lesson that I've learned, is that only we have the ability to take away our own power. No one else. It doesn't matter what law. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. And I'll tell you how I know it does not matter. And in January 2020, my little brother, who had to have 24/7 care, his Medicaid got taken away from him. This was the second time that it had happened to him in his lifetime. And it took 9 months, and it took over $10,000, but I achieved the impossible. What they told me was not possible. I got him back on Medicaid. And not only did I get him back on Medicaid, I was able to get him even more resources afterwards. And that was completely through prayer. And it's funny to me how it even happened. I remember the day. It was September. And at the time, I was working a job of like 60 hours a week. My husband had actually quit his job so he could stay home with Tommy in our rental house that I'd had to completely figure out and make work for somebody in a wheelchair who needed 24/7 care. And so I would work all day long and then come home and then bathe him, make sure he had his medicine, feed him, do all those things, because it really required somebody that really knew how to do that. And I would do that every single day. And so September, I was just worn out. And I prayed. I said, God, my prayer was, I said, God, I can't do this anymore. I don't have anything left. And interestingly enough, I immediately got angry. I immediately got angry at our paternal father, who had never done anything really for us, had not seen him in like 30 years. And I just got furious. And so I did a Google search on paternal about that situation of what can you do with an adult child who is disabled and a paternal father who gives no support. And this attorney's name came up. And this was Friday night, and I emailed her, and she immediately emailed back. And we had a long correspondence back and forth in these emails about the situation. And she came back, and it was because of an annuity that Tommy had been kicked off his Medicaid. I didn't know I was going to tell this story. But anyway, it was because of an annuity. And so she came back and she said, I can't do anything about your paternal father, but tell me about this annuity. So I explained to her what the annuity was. And her response, I just laughed so loud. Her response was that she was one of the co-authors of the National Defense Authorization Act of 2015. And Section 624 allowed us to take that particular annuity that Tommy had and turn it into a special needs trust. And and she let me know it was going to be expensive and it was going to be a struggle, but we absolutely had the law on our side. And I started laughing because I thought God could only get me to reach out to her and find her through my anger. He knew the only way, because I was worn out, the only way he could motivate me to find the right person was through my anger. And so sometimes the answers to our prayers are interesting and different and not what we expect. But through that conversation and through me getting angry, I found the right person. And then I had no money and somehow came up with $10,000, had terrible credit, no money, like none, and was able to do it. And then on December the 2nd, I believe it was, I was able to get him back into his group home with full 24/7 care and all of the resources and even more resources than I'd had before. So that's how I know. That's how I know that faith and grace and belief work, but that they sometimes don't look like what we expect. They don't sometimes have the answers we expect. And it's usually when we come to the end and we give up the idea that we know how to do it. And that is what true faith is. That's what true grace is. That's what true belief is when you give up the idea that you have really anything to do with it, or it's your decision, or you're going to know how to do it. Because the only things you know how to do are the things you've either seen from the past or the things that you've done from the past. And the key word there is past, because we're at the very forefront of new creation. You see my cat coming through here. We're at the forefront of new creation, which hardly ever, if ever, can be fixed by something that's happened before. It may be affected by something before, and we can sometimes use that as a framework, but everything is always new and fresh and individual in this moment. So maybe that story resonates with someone. Maybe some of my other stories might resonate with it. Every time I've stepped into grace and faith and belief, I've always come through even stronger than I was before. And it was really miraculous, to be honest with you, something I never expected. I'd love to hear your stories of miracles and grace and faith and belief, and perhaps what you're in right now, and tell us what we can hold you in. What prayer are you making right now that we can hold and see you achieve? I know there's many for me, and I'd love to know what one is for you. So until later, do like, subscribe, and comment. And until later, love, peace, and release.